nonsense from Tim Murray, none of this buttoned-up professionalism. It's going to go off the rails, and it's going to go quickly.
Scuffling a little bit. He's been a few months now together on the air.
Tim's a little stuffy, Tim's a little too tried to polish up. He's making fun of Dan Orlowski the other day for wearing a polo on the air and trying to make comments about my hair, and it's just like, relax.
Wow.
Yeah, relax, buddy.
Appearance comments.
Yeah, don't worry, he's
you
here.
don't do that in this industry.
No, but he's here in spirit because I went to the haircut. They went to the barber over the weekend and asked for the Tim Murray, so we're good.
I think you look smooth, bud.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right, I'm fired up. We have a lot to get to here today. Of course, Western Conference Finals continue tonight, and that is where we will begin. Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals for the Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And it's a similar pattern that we're seeing, at least from a betting perspective. Starting some market movement toward the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah.
And Jared, we should note some of the movement is from the absence of Derek Lively. There was question about whether he was going to play initially, so when this market opens up immediately after Game 3, you get that put in there. But once he's ruled out, you get that market shift here toward the Minnesota Timberwolves, and it's starting to settle still in that direction. So at this point right now, we're sitting at a consensus number of Dallas as a 1.5-point favorite. That is the closing number of Game 3 for a healthy Dallas Mavericks team. Should this be the adjustment? Should this be changed? Is the market getting this right with a little bit of support for Minnesota? What do you read with the initial line moves here and for the side?
Yeah, I think if you watch the games, the impact Lively's had, the rim protection he's offered. I do think they have some depth. I saw Kleber getting some positive news, but he's probably not going to play tonight.
So he is. He looks like he's actually cleared to return. It looks like he might be out there.
Could be, and again, I feel like this is the regular season NBA kind of rearing its ugly head. We think this guy's out. We know this guy's out. This guy might play. This guy might get some minutes. So makes it hard to assess pre-flop. I do think the rim protection that Lively offers is bar none ahead of the guys that are going to be behind him. And Gafford gave him some good minutes down the stretch. A couple really big blocks there at the end that really secured that Game 3 win. But I think if you're Dallas, you just got to be comfortable with the two guys in the backcourt, really. And you just hope that you have enough front court to keep Minnesota off the glass. Minnesota hasn't shown – I don't think Minnesota's shown us their best stuff yet. I think they showed it to us against Denver. Dallas has really handled them in this series, especially on the road. For them to go on the road and win both of those games the way that they did, it's really impressive. I wouldn't be shocked if Minnesota gave us one shining star effort tonight. But I just think Kyrie's the closer and Luka's the setup guy, and it's really hard to overcome that when they're playing, at the level that they're playing at.
What's interesting is, and I brought this up yesterday when I was with Mitch on Follow the Money, and it's been one of the, I think, consistent points for Minnesota, which is lack of execution defensively for this team overall. One of the big things that has really killed them is their defense, particularly the low-man defense, has been abysmal. So if you're going to choose to blitz the way they have on some of these pick and rolls, right? If you're going to send Rudy Gobert at the level, you're going to put him after Luka Doncic or whoever's running that ball screen along with his defender, well, then the roll man's going to be free. And if that's going to happen, then your low man's got to be able to take care of that and snuff it out. And oddly enough, they're doing this thing where they're just kind of half-hedging and still letting the roll man get to the rim. And it's going to be pretty interesting because I think, to your point, if I'm choosing to get beat, and this is a way that was, I can't remember who it was that put it, I think it was Kurt Heelan potentially put it this way, but I like the way it was regardless. The first two opponents for Dallas have chosen to get beat in two different ways. The Oklahoma City Thunder chose to get beat by saying, if P.J. Washington and Derek Jones Jr. are going to beat us, then they beat us.
Swarm Kyrie and swarm Luka.
And they lost, right? But to me, that's the better way to do it than what the Clippers decided to do, which is similar to this, which is stay home at shooters and do those sort of things and allow these roll men to kind of dominate you. And I think that if you're Minnesota, you see a much more concerted effort to go, screw this. Derek Lively, who's great, and I wrote about this a little bit on the website, but it's Derek Lively who killed them on these roles because he's actually an adequate passer and a good finisher. So if you're not going to have him out there, and now it's Daniel Gafford, and maybe it's Maxi Kleber, maybe you see Powell again, we're going to make these other guys, whether it's the roll man make decisions or whether it's these for their careers, less efficient shooters beat us. That should be the game plan today. And I wonder if we really see that full-throated effort from these guys down low to actually really cut these guys off at the rim and force these centers to make decisions with the ball.
It's a tough ask because I feel like if you do that, then you leave yourself open to, two of the best offensive players in the game doing their thing, right? I respect Oklahoma City's method, even though it didn't work. I respect the persistence to not let Kyrie and Luka beat you and to make other guys make shots. And sometimes in the playoffs, those guys, like if you were going to ask me Kyrie being consistent or Luka being consistent compared to P.J. Washington being consistent from three, I'll take my chances with the outside guys. The key, though, for Minnesota is they need more from, frankly, who I think is their best, most talented player, Karl Anthony Towns. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't shoot threes. You can't do the whole dilly-dally on the outside thing. You got to be aggressive. And he had 11 rebounds in the last game. It's not like he had a poor game statistically speaking, 14, 11, 3 assists, but he has to be more persistent. He has to be a little bit, I guess, more dominant in areas where he can be dominant. Like, he gives himself a little more credit. He's a 7-footer. Like, you can go in there and bang a little bit. Make Dallas, who's clearly without their best one of their best interior players tonight, make them feel that loss. And if there isn't that adjustment to really hammer the paint in some capacity, whether it's Towns, whether it's Edwards getting inside, you have to attack the opponent's weakness. Tonight, that opponent's weakness is clearly the paint, because that's where they're soft tonight. That's where they're a little bit thin. And I think if Minnesota, I would not be shocked if Minnesota won this game at all. But you just need more from your stars.
Yeah, and I think that's always an interesting part about handicapping some of these matchups, right? Whether you want to look at it statistically or go with the old school handicap or whatever it is. You hit it on the head. The story of this series should be Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
Towns has been abysmal in this series. In terms of averages through 3 games, we're talking about an average of 15 points per game on 27.8% shooting from the floor, not from three-point range. From the floor, he's shooting less than 30% from the floor, 13.6% from beyond the arc. He was 0 of 8 from three-point range in that game last time we saw them. In fourth quarters, as we have this here versus the Mavericks. He is shooting 2 of 12 from the floor. He's 1 of 8 from three-point range. They've been outscored by 16 points in his time on the floor in the fourth quarter versus the Dallas Mavericks. So I find this the challenging part, because when I have watched them, not to take it away because the Mavericks have been awesome, but when I have watched this series, when you look at some of their issues defensively, I see a lack of execution. When I look at them offensively, I see at times Anthony Edwards not pushing the issue, which we saw him erupt in the third quarter, then disappear in the fourth.
He's played great in this year. I don't think he's played bad.
I mean, he hasn't played up to the level that we know he can.
Agreed.
That third
he hasn't
quarter,
played to the prime level that he needs to in order for them to win.
Correct. And for Karl Anthony Towns, he's been abysmal. And so, does that shooting regression just happen? Does all of a sudden Karl Anthony Towns come out, put up something great? Because they are doing things to him. When they try to post him up, they're sending doubles at him. He needs to learn how to shoot out of those a little bit better. Shot selection has to be better. But at the end of the day, he is a better offensive player than what he has shown.
Yep.
Does water just find its level today for Karl Anthony Towns is the big question, because I think it ties into what the result could be.
Yeah, it definitely does. I do like, there's a couple of factors I'm interested in tonight, and I'm interested in if they play a factor in the game. First of all, what you said, shooting regression. You would expect yes, but it's a one-game roll of the dice, and Karl's been getting a lot of hate. Not only from people outside of his circle, but even the NBA on TNT guys. Yep. That was really intriguing.
And really quick, regression is not guaranteed even over the course of a series. Like, we've seen many examples of that.
100%. The other interesting wrinkle tonight is what happened last night. And Dallas is sitting there now knowing Boston is through. And does that, and I'm not going to say this isn't an important game. Every game in the playoffs is important. There's obviously motivation, but is there even a heightened sense of urgency knowing if you don't win tonight, the series gets extended 2 more days, and that's 2 more days of extra rest for Boston that they have over you, right? That net rest advantage, which at this time of year, frankly, I think it matters a little bit. The postseason is a long, grueling second season, and Boston's had a very easy road. So if you continue to give them extra days of rest, I think that matters. And frankly, if this series does go back to Minnesota in Game 5, I wouldn't be shocked if it goes back to Dallas in Game 6. So there is a little bit of, if we don't close this series out now, are we hurting our chances to beat Boston?
Yeah, and it's not out of the realm of possibility. We saw Boston do it last year. You win Game 4. Yeah. Then the ball starts rolling down the hill. You go back home. You get that win. You go to Game 6. You steal that one. At the very least, you force a Game 7. And the Timberwolves are talented enough defensively to do that. From a side perspective, we've covered that. From a totals perspective, it's interesting. Derek Lively's impact on this game. Closing number for Game 3, 207.5. Markets bet these games under throughout this entire series. It's been wrong. I was going to say, it's been wrong. These conference finals have gone over. Yeah. Today, total is 211.5. So we're 4 points higher.
Wow.
So you get 2 factors, I think, here. First off, again, the market being wrong. I'm betting these games under. That's kind of been the theme. And each game has gone over. And so you get that adjustment and the adjustment with the lack of Derek Lively. So it's going to be pretty fascinating to see if this is too high, whatever it is. Series so far, we get an average of 93.5 possessions per game. But we'll have more on the Western Conference Finals as we move along. We still, of course, have coming up next Johnny Lazarus, who's going to be with us to discuss the New York Rangers on the road against the Florida Panthers. 2-1 series lead for the Rangers, and after a very strong game last time out. And I got to tell you, watching that game and looking over these statistics, I have never been more convinced that the Florida Panthers are going to win this series.
I wouldn't be shocked. The Panthers, I mean, they were in the finals last year. I watched them lose the cup a few miles away from us right here.
I was looking for more shock. I was trying to say you have like, what? What are you talking about?
No, listen, when it comes to this postseason, nothing ever surprises me. This is the postseason of 8 seeds winning the cup, 3-0 down, series deficits getting overcome. The hockey postseason, I know you love the NBA. I love it too. It's the best postseason. It really is.
All right now, $1.65, $1.60, depending on where you look. Circa, we're sitting at $1.58 in favor of Florida. DraftKings up to $1.66. So look around for the cheaper number here. Total 5.5, shaded to the under at $1.20 pretty much everywhere that you look. To get our update on this, Johnny Lazarus joins us next. Get the New York Rangers perspective on a big road game. Do they take a 3-1 series lead, or is it going to be 2-2? We'll find out when we return here on VSiN PrimeTime.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Time is running out, folks. Our VSiN Spring Special almost coming to a close. You see, normally the VSiN Pro subscription is $240, but we can give you your subscription for less than $200 right now. And if you sign up today with the promo code PRIME, we're going to give you an extra 2 months for free. So that's 14 months of VSiN Pro access. That equates to about 47 cents a day. So check it out. You got to hurry up. Only available until May 31st. The code is PRIME. Daily best bets. You get betting splits with money and data courtesy of DraftKings, excluding betting and betting systems. Great analysis and articles like Johnny Lazarus and his plays in the National Hockey League and more. Remember, it expires May 31st, so sign up now, VSiN.com/subscribe. 14 months of VSiN Pro, less than $200 with the promo code PRIME at PRIME, VSiN.com/subscribe. Back here on the program, Jonathan Von Tobel, Jared Smith filling in for Tim Murray, and technically I'm filling in because I am leading the show, which means
double fill-in.
Yeah, it's going to get crazy. I don't know when. I got to pick and choose my spots. Johnny Lazarus is with us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Nice enough to give us some time today to talk New York Rangers. I got to say, though, Johnny, I mean, you got to feel great after my guy Jared here was just talking you up. How great do you feel after that pep talk?
Yeah, the confidence is definitely at a high right now. Hopefully we can carry that into Game 4 tonight because, despite the win in Game 3, it wasn't a very confident win. So, we'll see how that one goes tonight. But, Jared's always in my corner hyping me up, so I appreciate that. And hopefully he feels it back for me on his end.
Always, bro.
I gotta start there, Johnny. Look, and I tweeted this out, and I meant this in a complimentary way. Hockey's stupid. Like when you can put a shot just in the general direction of the net and have a careen off of a guy into the goal, the way that thing ended in Game 3, it is amazing. But you referenced it, so maybe a little bit here. So I wanted to ask you. As we've talked a lot, I like these even strength metrics. The even strength metrics paint a picture of dominance for the Florida Panthers in that game. So what happened, and how worried would you be coming out of that overtime win?
I mean, you make a good point. Hockey is wildly unpredictable. I think you can kind of put it that way. Because when you look at the analytics, right, it says that the Panthers were the dominant team, but the Rangers were also just as opportunistic. I think if you look at the high danger chances in that game, for the people who do love the stats, Florida had 11, the Rangers had 10. So while Florida did have the puck most of the game and most of the time, especially in that third period, obviously, a lot of the chances they got, while there were 3 or 4 that were really scary in the third period, throughout the entire game they weren't getting a ton. So the impression that we're left with because of how bad the third period was for the Rangers was that Florida was this much better team in the game. But the Panthers had a 4-minute power play in the second, and the Rangers score a shorthanded goal. That's a huge mistake that happened for Florida.
Yep.
Now, you can't just overlook that. So, these things and these games and the way these series work, one thing can change the outcome of the entire thing. And in Game 3, Igor Shesterkin playing the way he did in that third period, might be the thing that sets the Rangers above in this series. And we've seen it now. You know, in the last round, Shesterkin was phenomenal. Carolina had a similar dominance to Florida, but a lot of it was on the perimeter and not very high quality. So if you're the Panthers tonight, you got to just take it to them in the entire game, not just the last 20 minutes.
Well, Johnny, that's the thing, and I agree. Puck luck is definitely part of the equation here. But there is a great equalizer in the sport, and that's the netminder. And when you look at a lot of those same analytics, right, goals saved above expected, Shesterkin is right at the top where Bobrovsky's not. And I think that's where the Rangers do have an edge. And they had the same situation happen against Carolina where they were getting boat raced in the 5-on-5, and they just handled the special teams better. And a lot of times it is those little things that separates two really good teams. Carolina's a good team. The Rangers are a good team. The Panthers are a good team. These teams, there's not a lot separating them, but maybe the special teams and the netminder is what sets this New York team apart.
Well, that's a point, too, that's interesting, Jared, because, you know, the Rangers' power play is kind of what got them over against Carolina in the last round, but right now they're 0-for-8 in this series. So that's the scary thing if you're Florida is that, hey, we're down 2-1 in this series right now, and the Rangers' power play hasn't even gotten going yet. So, you know, that's something that if you are the Panthers, you got to make sure that they don't get any momentum off of that, because if they do, it could get ugly. So Florida's done a really good job on their kill. They're super aggressive, and they've also been very disciplined. The Florida Panthers have a reputation for, you know, mucking it up and stirring it up after the whistles and kind of getting in your face a little bit, you know, after the play and whatnot. And they haven't really done much of that in this series because they're trying to keep their cool and not do anything extra, not do anything unnecessary, because they know if they put themselves in the box, the Rangers will find a way to capitalize, despite the fact that they haven't yet in this series. But also on the flip side, Panthers, I believe, are 3-for-11. I looked at it before, and now I'm blanking on it, obviously, as I'm under pressure here on the phone. But I'm pretty sure when I saw it, it was 3-for-11. So Florida's power play has been, you know, pretty good for them. You know, aside from that one shorthanded goal they gave up, they've won the special teams battle in this series, but they're still not up in it. So, you know, like we said, it's these weird, wildly unpredictable games, but when you have a guy like Igor in net, it's that much of the difference.
What do you make of the way that game played on Sunday night, Johnny, from a total standpoint? Because market isn't really buying it. We're 5.5, heavily shaded to the under across the board. Where'd that explosion come from in a series that looked like it was going to be pretty gritty and grimy for a while?
So it's funny because I actually wrote about this yesterday with the Oilers and Stars series. Sometimes when the series changes location, changes arena, there's just a whole different temperature to it. And the first two games in Madison Square Garden, you know, very strong goaltending from both sides. You know, not as many goals as we may have expected to see. But once you come into a new building in Florida, just the energy in that first period is different. You know, and the Panthers also come out and have a power play in the opening 3-4 minutes and score a goal. And right from there, you can just feel something different in the building, right? So the Rangers answered quickly. They were lucky. But after a game like that, I expect to see a much more low-scoring game tonight. Because you go back, you watch the film, and I'm sure both goalies, you know, while we say it was a great goaltending performance, you look at the total, it was 5 on one side, 4 on the other. So they still let up a decent amount of goals. Tonight you think they tighten it up, and especially for the Rangers, they're going to be a little extra careful because they know if they make a mistake tonight, Florida has the home fans behind them. They have the desperation behind them. They don't want to get into, let's say, let's call it a track meet, because the Panthers are as conditioned, or, you know, maybe the best conditioned team in the NHL right now. And, you know, there's a chance that the Panthers throw everything they can at the Rangers tonight, and hopefully they have a response for it. I mean, you're going to see the most desperate effort you've seen from Florida, you know, in the last 2 years tonight.
Yeah, first period always intrigues me, right? I mean, those first period totals have been a pretty popular bet over the last few postseasons, especially the shots on goal props as well. Those are things Florida excels in. I would expect a lot of overs in a lot of those categories tonight for the Panthers. The other side of the bracket, I'll be honest, I thought Edmonton kind of, you know, calmed things down and you know, at least made this second and third period interesting. But Dallas continues to kind of have this alligator blood. And Ottinger, you know, speaking of netminders that are just playing way, way better than, you know, maybe the rest of the team, Ottinger is just saving the bacon of this Stars team. He's also, you know, +9 goals saved above expected in the postseason, right there with Shesterkin. Are you concerned about the Oilers being able to get through here? Or, you know, do they take game 4 and kind of even this series back? Or is Dallas going to take it by the horns tomorrow night?
Well, I think if you're talking about both series right now, the Florida Panthers feel way more confident than the Edmonton Oilers would going into Game 4. You know, both teams are down 2-1 on home ice for Game 4. But Edmonton, when you really think about it, like that game, they lost that game more than Dallas came out and won it. I mean, The Oilers came out, I think the shots were 13-3 after the first period. It looked like they were going to run Dallas out of the building. Then all of a sudden in the second period, it's just they went non-existent. And you want to credit the Dallas Stars, but what the hell happened to Edmonton, right? I think it goes a little bit both ways, where one team came out of the gate flying in the second, and sure, they scored 3 goals, but you don't see the Oilers just kind of crawl into a hole like that and make so many mental errors, right? So they got to get their mind right. And in the third period, Edmonton was good too, honestly. They had a chance to win that game in the third period. Stuart Skinner lets in a fluky goal from Jason Robertson, who scores a hat trick, and that's scary on Edmonton's side because now you got Robertson, one of the best goal scorers in the NHL, getting hot.
Yep.
So if you're Edmonton right now, I think you're a little bit concerned just because you can't rely on Stuart Skinner, and it's something that's been talked about all year long. So their offense can only bail them out so many times. Dallas, like we've seen throughout these playoffs, even when they're down, they're never out. Similar to the Rangers, right? Like they're kind of comfortable being uncomfortable. And we've seen the Stars come back now so many times, but they've also blown leads too. This series is very hard to read. I really actually expected that one to be an offensive explosion last night, which it was. But the next game, it's going to be very difficult to feel that one out. And I'm going to have to do a lot of digging tomorrow morning before I put out my best bet for that game.
Johnny, so I assume our last minute here with you, you kind of answered it. Of the two teams that are down in their series, respectively, 2-1, Florida, the team most confident here they'd come back and be able to win this thing?
Yeah, the Panthers, especially if you look at their road record, I know, we got 4 games left in this series, 2 at each barn. And even if Florida goes down 3-1 going back to MSG, like the Rangers should not feel comfortable because this Panther team has shown time and time again that they are very good on the road. And, the Rangers, like we saw last round, they went up 3-0 and it wasn't really that safe.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So Florida, they're confident in their room. They're all these players, too, at this point of the postseason, and honestly throughout the entire playoffs, and I know it's kind of cliche, but it's so true, it really is a one-day-at-a-time mentality. You can't win 4 games in one night. So the Panthers, they've shown time and time again they can squeeze out 3 wins in a row if they go down 3-1. Like, they're a team that you should not sleep on if you're the New York Rangers.
Johnny Lazarus, again, VSiN hockey betting analyst. We appreciate the time. You can check his article, too, by the way, with 3 best bets in it up at VSiN.com. Johnny, enjoy the game. Thanks a lot, man, as always.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Yep,
Keep
got
the
it.
beard,
You too,
bud.
buddy. You loved it. I was just telling him, talking him
I
up.
love the playoff.
Talking him up. All right, we'll come back. My baby face will be hosting still. We got some best bets for you.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
VSiN.com, check it out now. It is loaded up with content. First thing I see here is Wes Reynolds' shining face. RBC Canadian Open, best bets and golf odds, as well as the European Open golf predictions. Tons of content when it comes to the NBA postseason. Western Conference Finals continue tonight. Johnny Lazarus, who's just with us with his best bets for the hockey game today. And for all you hardcore DGens out there, NCAA baseball tournament betting previews from Aaron Moore. Check it all out and more up at the website at VSiN.com, as well as our exclusive betting tools like our NBA player prop analyzer. You're going to need that for tonight. Check it out now, VSiN.com. No Tim Murray today. Jonathan Von Tobel, I get to take over. He will be back Wednesday, Thursday, something
Thursday.
like that.
I know I'm in tomorrow. So.
Oh, okay, Thursday. All right, Thursday it is.
Extra day of me.
Yep, Tim will be
Sorry.
back. That's all right. Just fix
No, not for you, for them.
so just fix the voice, all right?
Yeah.
Just
Getting
play
over
it.
a little under the weather the last couple of days, but feeling better today.
All right, let's with that, we do it at the same time every day. Tim's a stickler about it. Let's do it, folks.
I see you using an old style.
I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom.
Putting our money where our mouth is.
I like to live dangerously.
It's time for Best Bets.
Come on, Jerry, it's a lock.
Gotta do it. All right, best bets for the day. We start in Major League Baseball. A pair of first 5 wagers in the Rockies-Guardians contest. Very excited to watch this later today. First off, I hope I'm wrong, actually, because you know what? I would very much like the Guardians to win this thing. However, let's go with the team total first. Rockies' first 5 team total over 2.5 at plus 105, taking on one Tristan McKenzie. McKenzie in his last 39 in the third innings, 2.52 ERA, So it looks like we're playing with fire, but if you look at the underlying metrics, some good things to kind of attack here. 494 fielding independent over that stretch of 39 in the third innings for McKenzie. For the year, 344 ERA, but a 548 FIP. So telling you that there's some room for some regression here for McKenzie. And you look at under the hood, pretty easy to spot. Fifth-year pro ranks in the 34th percentile in strikeout rate, 23rd percentile in whiff rate, 10th percentile in chase rate. He's not getting guys to swing and miss like he used to in the past. And, well, he used to be a strikeout machine. Walks used to be an issue, still are, and they're actually a lot worse this year. So he's not mowing guys down. He's walking them at a high rate. And how about this? 10th percentile in barrel rate allowed, 48th percentile in hard hit rate, all while inducing ground balls at just 35% clips. What does that tell you? He's giving up a lot of hard hit balls that are going up in the air, and he's playing at Coors today. So I will take the shot that the Rockies can get over this team total in the first 5 of over 2.5 at a plus 105 price. We'll also put a little bit on the Rockies money line as well. Actually, no, excuse me, run line to get this thing done. So the 2 plays here in this matchup going up against Tristan McKenzie and the Guardians. Rockies first 5 team total over 2.5 at plus 105. Rockies first 5 minus the half run at plus 135 going up against McKenzie. Again, we have the Guardians, Tim and I do, 10-1 to have most wins in the month of May. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, they're up there. So part of me hopes that I'm wrong, but the numbers were too good to pass up for McKenzie. And then speaking of numbers, I'm going to act on it here. Give me the Florida Panthers to win this series against your beloved New York Rangers. I referenced this with Johnny just to give it to our audience as a whole. At that first of all, Game 3, the shot share 69% essentially to 30% for the New York Rangers. Expected goals for 2.7 to about 1.2 in favor of Florida. High danger chances as well in their favor, as we referenced Johnny. But for the series, Jared, overwhelmingly, the even strength metrics have been in the favor of Florida. I'm going to take my chance at the Panthers, who I thought were a little unlucky to get that. I mean, again, you just put a shot on goal on a guy who I think didn't have a goal up to that point in this postseason. Just deflects it in off of his stick that's up by his belly button.
Puck luck.
Yeah, I think that the Florida Panthers are good enough to pull this series out. So we'll add it. So now we got 2 series bets so far. Panthers to win the series over the Rangers plus 130, and before the series began, laid a $130 with the Stars to win that thing over the Oilers.
I'm curious what the number moves to tonight if they win.
Florida?
Yeah, I don't know if they'd be odds on, but I think it would be close.
Oh, I think they would, right?
You think it'd be 2-2 going back to New York?
Yeah, I mean, because they were favored in game. They were favored in the 2 games in New York, right?
It was basically like a pick 'em. Like I think maybe it was like minus 105, minus 115, somewhere in that range. Rangers might have been the minus 105 in that case. All right, I'll give you. So I've had a terrible weather day for all of my baseball bets. I had an awesome Nerfy situation brewing in Detroit. We had a great pitching matchup, Scooble and Jared Jones, and that unfortunately got washed away. So we can't give you that. But I'll give you another Nerfy that I really like in Minnesota tonight. Hopefully no weather. I don't know what's going on in the Twin Cities there, but hopefully we stay dry because we've got another fantastic pitching matchup. Cole Reagans, who most of you probably have heard of, he is becoming a household name for this Royals team. And I'll be honest, JVT, you like the Guards to have a great May. The Royals are playing unbelievable baseball right now. I think it might have changed in the last few days since I looked at this last. I think they're top 5 in defensive metrics, in pitching metrics, and in hitting metrics. Like all of the analytics say they're a top 5 team across the board, defense, offense, and fielding. So, or pitching, offense, and pitching and fielding. So, Kansas City is a fantastic team. Reagans is a stud. So we're going to put him in a Nerfy tonight with Simeon Woods Richardson, who probably is not a household name, but he really should be. Reagan's Nerfy numbers are fantastic. 9-2 overall, 4-0 on the road. 26-5 Reagan's Nerfy since getting called up last year. And Woods Richardson, this is a guy that you really need to pay attention to for Minnesota's rotation. He's 7-0 to the Nerfy so far. How about this? A 41% strikeout rate in the first inning. He's a righty. He doesn't throw overly hard, but he's got really, I would call it, intoxicating stuff. I mean, for you to come on the scene for a Minnesota team that doesn't have the best pitching staff right now, especially with Pablo Lopez vastly underachieving, and for him to basically be the ace of the staff along with Joe Ryan, it's a pretty big surprise. But Woods Richardson's been great. Expected FIP in the first inning below 2. Again, 7-0 to the Nerfy this season. The Royals lineup is dangerous. They are very dangerous, and that obviously scares me with Witt and Salvador Perez and Melendez there at the top. And Pasquantino has had a really good year. But first time through the lineup for Woods Richardson against the Royals. That is always advantage pitcher. Ragans has obviously seen plenty of Minnesota last year, of course, but he's got great stuff, and I'll just rely on Cole to get through that first inning unscathed. Minnesota's been pretty good in the first inning scoring-wise this year, but I like the pitching matchup tonight, Ragans and Woods Richardson, so I'll go Nerfy there. And how about a little WNBA action? I've been starting to get involved. We have some really good handicappers here. Tyler Shoemaker does fantastic stuff with the WNBA setting numbers. I'm going to take a shot on the Sparks tonight, catching 4.5. They're on the road at the Fever, and this game was just played last week in LA. Credit to Indiana, their first win for Caitlin Clark, going on the road and beating the Sparks by 5. So you're like, all right, well, now they're at home. They should be able to win by 5 again, right? Well, the Sparks didn't play great in the second half. They were actually up 11 at halftime in that game, did not play well down the stretch. And I think revenge is a hell of a drug. So I'll say the Fever, who are dead last in defensive rating, second to last in offensive rating. I don't know if they deserve to be favored by more than a possession against anyone right now, even though it is at home. So I'll say the Sparks with Cameron Brink. Keep it close tonight. I don't know if I'm ready to call the outright upset, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Sparks go in there and win. Little revenge for LA tonight as they go on the road to take on the Fever.
Tell you what, this thing is a drug, and it's real. So Saturday, I was with family, and my mom tells me, hey, can you put on the game?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, cool. It's the Pacers and Pacers Celtics. I'm in. She's like, no. She's like, the Aces are playing. And I'm like, and I was curious. I was like, do you want to watch because of the Aces, or do you want to watch because of who they're playing? She's like, that Caitlin Clark girl's playing, right? I was like, all right, yep. So it is real. So you have a two-time defending champ playing at home, and the attraction is play the rookie on the bad team. Like, let's watch this. It's absolutely unreal. By the way, bad spot for them, too, and they ended up not covering that matchup. So they're putting this team through the ringer, man.
I think it's good for the WNBA. I mean, I know it's been a hot-button topic around the league. I can't think of anything bad to say about what she's done. I mean, I don't know how you negatively spin it. Like, it's great for the WNBA.
I mean, they're not good. That's a negative.
They'll be okay.
Yeah, they're not good though. All right,
probably not. I hope they're not good tonight. I hope they stink tonight.
There's the negative spin. Okay, New York guy. I made my case. Bet the Panthers to win the series.
I can't argue with it.
What do you make of it?
I can't argue with it. I agree with betting teams that are doing well 5-on-5. I mean, I think that's a good. Again,
it's a vast majority of where the game is played.
Yes, 100% correct. I would estimate around 45 out of the 60 minutes, maybe. You know, on a crazy night, maybe 40. But it's very fair to say that the Rangers have kind of slept with Angels the whole postseason. Now, the team of destiny rhetoric is on the other side. I don't know if you're pro or con to the team of destiny cliche.
You know, the Florida, is that with Florida?
No, it'd be the Rangers. Because they're kind of skating by,
right.
Not playing their best hockey in the elements that matter the most.
Market's been against them each of the last 2 rounds.
Market's definitely been against them. They have definitely been the underdog in both of the series, and they've overachieved. So, yeah, right, the law of regression, all that, fancy wording says they're going to come back down to earth, but hockey's weird. You said it yourself. Hockey is stupid. Yep. And they do have the net-minding edge. Like, that is key. But if we go back 2-2 to the Garden, you're going to be on the right side of the odds there, and then anything can happen. I do think the Panthers probably win tonight, and then it's a best of 3. So I can't argue with trying to play the long game in the series.
Yeah, and I think I was thinking more about it. I think you're probably right. Like, I think we're probably pick?
It's probably a pick 'em. I mean, it might be depending on how the game goes tonight. Right. If it's 6-2 Florida, maybe it's Florida minus 115. But But it's not going to be a huge move in either
I wasn't
direction.
Expecting minus 160. You're not seeing a flip.
No, definitely not.
All right. Speaking of flipping, I was flipping out over the weekend. Of course, the Philadelphia Phillies drop a series over the weekend of the Colorado Rockies. An update on the most wins in May and a quick primetime primer. The baseball game's getting started at 4 p.m. or later.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're on the verge of the NBA Finals, and with the action heating up on the court, it's even hotter. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you're a new customer to DraftKings, listen up. Before you sign up, I'm going to get you a no-sweat bet up to $1,500. Just deposit at least $5, and you're going to get a bonus bet back equal to your first bet if it doesn't hit. All you have to do is download the app and use code VSiN. That's download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now using the code VSIN. The crown is yours. No Tim Murray today or tomorrow. Jonathan Von Tobel is, I'm here. Jared Smith is along as well. Just got done recapping some of the best bets. And now we have to update this. Unfortunate goings-ons over the weekend. Some fortunate, some not. The Padres, thank God, got us a win here to derail the Yankees train that has been absolutely unstoppable. But our month of May MLB standings heading into the final week. This is going to be quite the sweat.
These are fun bets.
These are great. It's a great way to keep track of the league.
These are very fun bets.
Yep. So we've got, luckily, we do have 3 of the, we'll call them 4 horses in the race. I guess there's like 4.5 with the Orioles. It would have to go pretty.
How about the Royals, man?
Pretty nuts. And I love to see it. I am very much loaded up on Royals stuff. Overwin total division,
Nice.
AL pennant. So, let's go
I
Royals.
didn't get a piece of them pre-flop. I wish I did, though.
I did not pre-flop.
I got some make the playoff bets after the first couple weeks, but I didn't get anything pre-flop.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a tasty CLV sandwich, but it's not as good as it could have been. Yeah, it'll be great.
Pastrami on rye.
Never had a pastrami sandwich before.
Never had a pastrami sandwich? Wow.
No, never.
That's a New York deli thing, I guess. Maybe.
East Coast. Too much, you guys. You know how I feel about this.
I know you hate New York.
But speaking of Philly, look, screw the East Coast, but until you get to Philadelphia, right then we're all in.
Cleveland's East Coast. They're on Eastern time zone.
That's very true. So Philly's 18-6, along with the New York Yankees, who are also 18-6. As I mentioned, Philly's dropped 2 out of 3 over the weekend to the Colorado Rockies, so that's unfortunate. However, the Yankees do lose a key matchup to the San Diego Padres on Sunday. That was really good for us, we'll say, because Tim's in on this as well. And the Guardians also getting derailed. How about this? The Rockies are going to be the bane of my existence. Rockies on Memorial Day take down the Guardians yesterday. So come on, man. What are we doing?
I'm on the Rockies under 60.5. I thought it was money in the bank, but they've played better the last guy. They have a little bit of pop, just a little bit of pop, and with their, Coors Field, you could take advantage of it.
Sure.
And when teams go in there, sometimes they're not always used to it, especially a team like Cleveland. When's the last time Cleveland went to Coors Field? I mean, it might have been a decade ago, if ever.
It's been a while. They were doing, when I was watching the broadcast yesterday, they were bringing up like a Guardians sweep in 2022. I was like, what are we talking about this for? So,
it might have been. It was more recently.
It might have been a while since they've been there, but regardless, I win. Please. Now, here's the thing. Actually, I want you to lose because I also did bet the Guardians first 5 today. So, I'd like a comeback. How about that? Let's thread the needle here. Let's get this in. But regardless, look, Phillies, Yankees in a good spot. Depending on where you bet, some places tiebreaker is fewest losses, but you're in a deadlock there. So
I was curious if it was a dead heat or not.
Yep, dead heat. So, look, I've said this. I was talking about this yesterday, Jared, and I need to say it again. The Angels have failed me many times. I'm an Angels fan. Right? It's been a disappointment watching this team.
We haven't talked about the Angels, you and I, this year. We were talking about them a lot pre-flop last year.
We're about to.
Reed Detmers' unbelievable Nerfy record this year.
We're about to. You want to know why? You know why.
No, I know why.
Because the Yankees have a series with the Angels this week.
Tonight.
That starts tonight. Artie Moreno, your team has done nothing for me. Nothing. Since I have become a fan. Nothing. I need one thing. I need a win. Just one win. Just give me one. And I trust that the Phillies maybe can pull this thing out. They've got a sneaky tough series here against the San Francisco Giants. But come on. I need something from you guys. You got a series win over the Astros, like a week ago. Can we get one here, please, against the New York Yankees? But that's where we're at right now. 2 teams at 18-6, Guardians at 17-8. You mentioned the Royals. Royals are kind of tough because you get a divisional series against the Minnesota Twins. As you mentioned it, you get the Twins today with Simeon Woods-Richardson, who's been very, very good for them. You also have coming up, and these are the kind of the rotations the way they're shaking out. Bailey Ober's going to get the start for the Twins against Kansas City and Seth Lugo on Wednesday. And then Brady Singer, Chris Paddock coming up there. So I figured that Kansas City, they were on the list of teams to potentially make the play, but ultimately got scratched off because I felt like this week was going to be kind of tough with some of these coin flip-ish spots, if you will.
Trying to find the pitching matchups for you this week, Angels, Yankees.
Oh, so we got Luis Gil coming up tomorrow, so that's going to be kind of tough.
I kind of like a Cortez fade tonight. He's been so good at home and not great on the road.
Yes, well, I think the one, and Mitch and I mentioned this yesterday, I think the one you have circled to potentially get you, Patrick Sandoval has his moments.
Yeah.
And he's going to be pitching on Thursday. So if you could get like one of those double-digit-ish strikeout performances from Patrick Sandoval, he's capable of doing it. If you look at his recent history.
Yeah, Rodon's trash.
He got lit up by the Guardians last time. I gave up 8 earned runs.
I think Rodon, you can get to Rodon.
Yep.
And the top of that, so it's always funny the way the Nerfy stuff works. I'm very invested in the top of most lineups, like very invested in the top 4 hitters of every lineup. And the Angels were a really strong Nerfy team. And then all of a sudden, when they went to Houston, they started hitting. And this was, I think, last week. So at the top, they got a couple guys. Renfio's been an absolute pest at the top.
I don't want to talk about him.
And Chanel is, I think, their best overall player right now.
You're going to get me started. If Nolan Chanel is your best player, sorry, I can't do it anymore. Yes, of course. Can't do it.
But in short spurts, I think those guys offer upside if the right matchup. Like, those are good righty bats. I think Renfio's a switch, but more power. Or actually, I don't know which side he has more power from. But every time I seem to nerfy him, he seems to go yard against me in the first inning. But I know Chanel's a righty, and he hits lefties great. So that could be the Rodon Cortez factor this week for you, is that top of that lineup, which hits lefties well, gets you across the finish line.
Well, we need it.
Spin it positive. Because not all New York guys are bad guys.
I would enjoy it. I mean, I never said you guys were bad. I said you're annoying. Somebody's told me this, and I think it's from something else, so I'll steal it because I thought it was brilliant. You give a New Yorker a pack of gum, they'll show you how to chew it, right? That's the way. It's great.
I don't even chew gum. So
this is how you chew gum in New York. Like, okay, we get it. It's great out here. All right, we have a couple of games.
Says the guy who left New York to come to Vegas.
We have a couple of games that are getting started right now. Oakland, Tampa Bay did just get started, so no need to dive into the analysis here. Worth noting, market moved on the under, opened up 8-ish, shaded to the under, closed 7.5, shaded to the over between Oakland and Tampa Bay. Spence and Littell are going to oppose one another. That thing is just underway right now out there in Tampa Bay. Got a couple of games slated to start at about 4:10 p.m. Pacific time. I'll ask you this.
What do you got?
What do you do with the team on a doubleheader, dependent on what happens in the first matchup? Gavin Stone's going to get the start for the Dodgers. Dodgers look like they might be able to pull this out. Crazier things have happened, but bottom of the 10th, 2 outs, 5-2. Freddie Freeman just hit a massive dong to get this lead for the Dodgers, so it looks like they're going to win this first. Now they get to oppose Jose Quintana on the other side. Quintana, number-wise, has not been great if you look at some of his metrics. A dude that I think this Dodgers lineup could probably get to and knock around. Metrics, or it's going to be a market, would not really reflected too much. You're looking at a pretty, like, minus 120-ish price, depending on where you look. Caesars up to minus 125, other spots at like minus 120 or lower. What do you make of this matchup here with Gavin Stone getting the start for the Dodgers?
Quintana's numbers are really starting to fall off. Again, I like, when you have a guy that's been around the block like him, I like to look at the year-over-year stuff. And I know, last year's different than this year, and I know guys make adjustments. I get that. But pitchers, the tread on the tires shows a lot more than hitters do. And with Quintana, I mean, this was a guy that was 10, 12 Ks per 9 in 2020, 2021. Yep. Now you see the fall off 7.5, 7.1. Now we're down to 6. Like, it's just the obvious stuff deterioration. What does that mean for one start? Who knows? But you get the Dodgers lineup that, I'll be honest, and I've watched. I don't watch the full games. I watch the first inning. Sometimes I'll watch the end of games if things are close or interesting, if I have a prop or something involved. But the Dodgers lineup is the best top 3 I've ever seen in the 3 years of me doing this nerfy thing. It's gotten so good that teams are starting to throw openers and not even let the opener get through the first inning. They are bringing in a lefty to pitch to Betts, Ohtani, and Freeman. Regardless of the situation after Freeman, they bring the righty starter in to go to Will Smith. Like, that is how good this Dodgers top 3 is. There are literally plans in place at the top of the game, not at the end of the game, at the first inning on how to pitch these guys. And Quintana, I don't think he has the longevity to be able to, and especially after a game that went to extras, doubleheader. So I didn't see how many bullpen guys the Mets use in this game, but I'm assuming they're up against it. So I know the Dodgers, you don't want to bet on them every night, but I would try to find a creative way to fade them. I mean, the Mets are it's unbelievable how they're inventing ways to lose games.
Tyler McGill actually gave him a good start. 7 innings, 3 hits.
That's helpful.
Ended up using 4 guys out of the pen today.
All right, so relatively rested them.
And Glasnow, again, today was actually a classic pitcher's duel. It was 7 innings as well from Glasnow today. Shut down the Mets, and then, of course, you got the extra inning shenanigans. Speaking of which, that's why I bet first 5, because this nonsense.
I agree. First 3 is even becoming a fun thing to bet, too. I don't get that. I usually, if I'm going to go first 3, I just go first 5 or nerfy. I haven't thread that needle yet with the first 3s. It hasn't been a cup of tea I've sipped, but people say they like them.
Also worth mentioning really quickly, Washington, Atlanta, after yesterday, Washington jumped all over them.
Yeah,
minus 255, minus 260. Total of 8.5 shaded to the under at minus 120. Max Fried and Jake Irvin getting the start. Irvin's got some pretty good stuff. When you look at some of his numbers, 379 ERA, 359 FIP.
You think the market's caught up to Fried yet? Started slow, pitching better lately?
I think a little bit here. We'll see if that's going to be the case. That starts at 420. So more on that. Second hour, VSiN Primetime when we return.
We're this close to crowning an NBA champ, and with the action heating up on the court, it's even